This story is titled, "My wife used our daughter as cover for her affair with a coworker. So when I discovered the truth, I put their belongings outside with divorce papers and renounced my fatherhood." Hey everyone, I'm typing all this out for strangers on the internet because I literally have nobody else to talk to right now. My life just got completely nuked, and I can't even process half of what's happened. Maybe writing it out will help me make sense of everything. Or not. Whatever. At this point, I'm willing to try anything. My wife Natalie and I have been together for almost 30 years. We got together when she was 20 and I was 23. Back then, we were completely broke, living in some shitty apartment that always smelled like the last tenant's dogs no matter how much we cleaned. But despite our financial struggles, we were genuinely happy, you know? Just two young people figuring life out together, making it work despite the challenges. We started with nothing and built everything ourselves from the ground up. Over the years, we had two daughters, Sophia, who's now 27, and Lily, who's 25. Sophia was always the smart one in the family, valedictorian, top of her class in college, and now working some fancy corporate job that pays well. She's currently engaged to an economics professor named Thomas, and their wedding is supposed to be this December. Lily, on the other hand, has always been more laid back and artistic. She's always been a daddy's girl, or at least I thought she was. Turns out, I was wrong about a lot of things. Like any marriage, we had our rough patches over the years. Money was especially tight when the girls were little. I worked as an architectural draftsman, sometimes taking on two jobs simultaneously, while Natalie waited tables and gradually completed her degree. We fought about stupid stuff occasionally, but we always managed to figure things out. That's what marriage is supposed to be about, right? You stick it out through the hard times. You don't just bail when things get difficult or uncomfortable. At least that's what I always believed. But lately, something has felt off between us. Natalie started acting differently over the past few months. Nothing major at first, just little things that seemed odd in isolation, but formed a disturbing pattern when I looked back. She suddenly became super protective of her phone, which was new behavior for her. One time, I simply picked up her phone to check the time because mine was charging, and she practically dove across the room to grab it from me. She said something about privacy and boundaries, which struck me as strange. We've been married for 30 years. Since when do we have phone boundaries between us? Then there were these girls' nights she started doing with Sophia and Lily. In the past, they used to get together maybe once a month, which was completely fine with me. I always thought it was great that they were so close as mother and daughters. But recently, these get-togethers increased to every other week, sometimes even more frequently. When I asked what they did or where they went, I'd get these vague, evasive answers like just dinner or just catching up. This was another red flag because Natalie used to come home from these nights and enthusiastically tell me all the gossip and interesting things they had talked about. About 6 months ago, I came home early from a business trip because the client meeting got canceled unexpectedly. I managed to catch an earlier flight, and when I walked into our house, Natalie was on the phone. She hung up crazy fast when she saw me, claiming it was just Sophia on the line. But when I casually asked what they were talking about, she got all weird and awkwardly changed the subject. Looking back, I should have pressed the issue, but I didn't want to seem paranoid or controlling. There was this one particularly suspicious incident when I walked into the kitchen and caught Lily mid-sentence, saying something in a low voice to Natalie. I didn't catch all of it, just a fragment that sounded like, "Do you think he knows?" They both turned to look at me with eyes a little too wide, like I'd startled them in the middle of something secretive. "What are you two whispering about?" I asked, half laughing to keep the atmosphere light despite my growing unease. Natalie recovered quickly, giving me this casual smile that I now realize was completely forced. "Oh, just talking about something for later," she replied smoothly. "Nothing you need to worry about." Lily chimed in a little too eagerly. "Yeah, it's just a surprise thing. You'll find out soon enough." I raised an eyebrow, not entirely convinced. "A surprise for what?" "Just something fun," Natalie said, brushing past me to grab something from the fridge, clearly trying to end the conversation. "You'll see." I figured they might be planning something for my birthday, which was around the corner at the time. So I let it go, not wanting to ruin whatever surprise they might have been working on. If only I had known what was really happening behind my back. Then there was that other night when Natalie told me she was visiting her sister in Cincinnati for the weekend. No big deal. I didn't think twice about it. A few days later, I was talking to Sophia on the phone, just catching up on life, when she casually mentioned how her mom had gotten a nice tan. I frowned immediately. A tan in Ohio in February? Something about that didn't add up. There was the tiniest pause from Sophia, barely noticeable, but something about it made me feel like I'd said the wrong thing or caught her in a lie. Then Sophia laughed a little too nervously and said, "Oh yeah, we went to a tanning place together before she left. It was kind of a random thing. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time, so I just shrugged it off, choosing to believe my daughter rather than follow my gut instinct that something wasn't right." But then I started noticing how Natalie had been dressing differently lately. She was buying new clothes, wearing makeup more often, and had suddenly started going to the gym 3 times a week. Good for her, I guess, but it seemed to come out of nowhere after 30 years of marriage. Oh, and she bought herself this silver bracelet a few months back. She said it was a career milestone reward or something. It looked expensive, and when I asked how much it cost, she got oddly defensive, saying I never cared about her treating herself before. Which isn't true at all. I've always told her to buy stuff she wants if we can afford it. Her reaction seemed completely disproportionate to a simple question. Through all of this, I kept thinking maybe I was reading too much into things. Maybe it was just empty nest syndrome or something similar. Both girls were out of the house now, so it was just Natalie and me. People change after 30 years together, right? That's normal. I didn't want to be that jealous, controlling husband who freaks out when his wife gets a new haircut or spends more time with our kids. That's not me, and it never has been. I've always trusted Natalie completely throughout our marriage. But there was this nagging feeling I couldn't shake, like something wasn't right. Like I was missing something obvious that was staring me right in the face. And then on a completely ordinary Wednesday, everything in my life fell apart all at once. I was at work managing a drafting project. Nothing special, just a routine day. Around lunchtime, I checked my email, scrolling through the usual junk, when something caught my eye. There was a message with the subject line, "Your wife is cheating on you." My first thought was that it was just spam, some scam like those Nigerian prince emails you always hear about. But something made me open it anyway, some instinct I couldn't ignore. The email was short and devastatingly direct. "Natalie's been screwing her boss Gregory for over a year. Everyone at the company knows except you. Thought you deserved to know." And there was a video attached to the message. I sat in my truck for about 20 minutes just staring at my phone, paralyzed. Part of me didn't want to watch the video at all. I thought that maybe if I didn't see it, then it wasn't real, and I could go on with my life pretending everything was fine. But eventually, I forced myself to click play, needing to know the truth one way or another. The video was from what looked like a company Christmas party. You could see Natalie in the background, sitting close to a man I recognized as her boss, Gregory. They weren't doing anything too explicit or crazy, just talking very close to each other, with a familiarity that made my stomach turn. Then the camera moved to focus on this drunk woman whom I vaguely recognized from when I'd picked Natalie up from work a few times. "Oh my God, is that her husband?" the drunk woman asked whoever was filming. "No, just recording the party," a woman's voice behind the camera said. "But tell me what you were saying about Natalie and Gregory." The drunk woman laughed and said, "Everyone knows they've been fucking for like a year. They think they're so sneaky, but come on. Those business trips they take together, the way they disappear during lunch. He even bought her that bracelet she always wears. The bracelet. The silver one, she said, was her career milestone reward." In that moment, I felt like my whole world crumbled beneath me. The camera person's voice came through the speakers again. "How's she getting away with it?" The drunk woman laughed, swirling her drink carelessly. "Oh, she's got it covered. Got her whole routine down. Excuses, little white lies. People think she's working late, out shopping, whatever. But nah, she's with him." Then the video cut off abruptly. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like the air had been sucked out of my truck. I didn't know who had sent the video, but I had a pretty good guess. Jessica, who worked with Natalie, always had tension with her after Natalie got promoted over her last year. This had to be her way of getting back at my wife. At least that's what I desperately wanted to believe. I tried to brush it off as just office gossip, drunk talk from someone with a personal grudge. But the longer I sat there, the more pieces started snapping into place like a horrific puzzle. The girls' nights, the vague answers, the weird phone calls, the bracelet. It all suddenly made perfect, terrible sense. I couldn't go back to work. My hands were shaking too much and I felt physically ill. I told my foreman I had a family emergency and just drove. Not home, though. I couldn't face that place, not yet. I ended up at my buddy Rob's house. He took one look at me and knew something was seriously wrong. I didn't say anything at first, just pulled out my phone, hit play on the video, and handed it to him. "Holy shit, man," Rob said when the video ended, his expression a mix of shock and sympathy. "What are you going to do?" I had no clue how to answer that question. All I could think about was confronting Natalie right away, but another part of me needed more concrete proof. The video could have just been office gossip from someone with a grudge, right? It wasn't enough on its own, and I needed to be absolutely certain before I blew up my entire life. That night, I stayed at Rob's place. I called Natalie and told her I had an emergency at a job site and wouldn't be home for 2 days. She didn't even hesitate or ask questions, just said, "Okay, be safe," like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't lying straight to my face. The ease with which she accepted my excuse made me sick to my stomach. After 30 years together, I could tell when something was off with her. But apparently, she had become so comfortable with deception that lying to me was second nature now. The next evening, she texted me saying she was having her usual dinner with the girls. "Just a little midweek catch-up," she wrote. Then added, "Just grabbing my coat, don't wait up." I texted back telling her to have fun, playing along with her charade while my insides twisted with anger and hurt. As soon as I sent the message, I got out of Rob's apartment, determined to find out what was really happening. I drove across town and parked outside the restaurant where Sophia and Lily usually met their mother for dinner. I sat there for about 20 minutes, watching the entrance, expecting to see Natalie walk in at any moment, but she never appeared. Through the window, I spotted Sophia and Lily already seated at their usual table. No Natalie in sight. I gripped my phone tightly and texted Sophia. "Hey, just wondering, did Mom make it to dinner yet?" A few seconds later, my phone buzzed with her reply. "Yeah, she's here. Why?" I stared at the message in disbelief, my stomach twisting as the truth hit me like a brick to the chest. They were lying to me. All of them. They'd been lying this whole time, covering for their mom, making up stories, looking me in the eye day after day, and feeding me complete bullshit while Natalie was off with him. My own daughters were active participants in destroying our family. With a clenched jaw, I checked the tracker app on my phone. We had installed it on each other's phones ages ago for safety reasons, never thinking it would be used like this. Natalie's location dot wasn't at the restaurant with our daughters. Instead, it showed her across town at an upscale Italian place I knew was well outside our usual budget. I knew before I even drove there what I'd find, but seeing it with my own eyes still felt like a gut punch. Through the window of the fancy restaurant, there she was, my wife of nearly 3 decades, sitting next to Gregory, so close to him she was practically on his lap. She was smiling like she didn't have a care in the world, completely relaxed and happy in a way I hadn't seen her in our home for months. As I watched, she leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder with an intimacy that made my blood boil. They weren't even trying to hide it. I almost threw up right there in the parking lot. With shaking hands, I took out my phone and snapped pictures. A lot of them, documenting every moment of their betrayal. Then, running on pure adrenaline and rage, I opened our family group chat. The one that included not just Natalie, Sophia, and Lily, but also my parents, my siblings, her siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone in our extended family. I attached the photos I had just taken and typed out one message. "Hope you're enjoying your dinner with the girls, Natalie. Looks like your boss is enjoying it too." Then I hit send, making their betrayal public to our entire family in an instant. Immediately, my phone started blowing up with notifications. Sophia, "Dad, what are you talking about?" Lily, "What's going on?" My sister, "What the hell is this?" My mom, "Is this some kind of mistake?" Natalie's brother, "Nat, what is he talking about?" My cousin, "Dude, WTF?" My dad, "Call me right now." I didn't answer any of them. What was I supposed to say? Just found out my wife of 30 years has been screwing her boss, and my daughters have been covering for her. How's your evening going? There were no words that could adequately express the mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak I was feeling. I spent the rest of the day driving around aimlessly, trying to figure out what to say when I eventually went home to face them. By the time I finally pulled into our driveway, they were all there, Natalie, Sophia, and Lily, sitting in the living room looking worried and nervous, as if they were the victims in this situation. "Dad, what's going on?" Sophia asked as soon as I walked in, her tone more accusatory than concerned. "We've been freaking out." I didn't say anything at first. The silence hung heavy in the room as I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd taken, and handed it to Natalie. Her face went white instantly, all pretense dropping away as she realized she'd been caught red-handed. "Who sent you these?" she whispered, still trying to control the narrative somehow. I took them today after I got this, I replied coldly, and then played the video from the Christmas party. The room went dead silent. Lily started crying. Sophia just stared at the floor, and Natalie kept shaking her head like she could make it all disappear if she tried hard enough. How long? I demanded, my voice eerily calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. Natalie wouldn't answer, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor. It was Sophia who spoke up first. Dad, you need to understand, she began, already trying to justify their actions. How long? I shouted, making them all jump in surprise at my outburst. 17 months, Natalie admitted, her voice barely audible. I turned to my daughters, the betrayal cutting even deeper. And you two? How long have you been covering for your mother? Lying to my face? Making me look like a fucking idiot? Lily was sobbing now, her shoulders shaking with the force of her tears. Daddy, I'm so sorry! Mom said it was just temporary, that she was going through something. Shut up, Natalie snapped at her. Just shut up, Lily. No, let her talk, I insisted, rage building inside me. I want to hear exactly how my family conspired behind my back for over a year. I stood there staring at my wife and daughters, who suddenly felt like complete strangers to me. Sophia was trying to take control of the situation like always. Lily was crying her eyes out, and Natalie was looking like she'd seen a ghost now that her double life had finally been exposed. It wasn't like that, Sophia said, her voice all calm and professional, always the composed one, even in a crisis of her own making. Mom was unhappy. You were so wrapped up in work, always gone on those long projects. Are you seriously blaming me right now? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything they had done, they were somehow trying to make this my fault. I'm not blaming you, she replied, but her tone said otherwise. I'm just saying there were reasons. You weren't exactly there for her emotionally. You never wanted to talk about real stuff. You were physically present, but mentally checked out. I stared at my oldest daughter, this stranger defending her mother's affair with such calculated precision. So that justifies her fucking her boss? That makes it okay for you to lie to me for over a year? No, but, she started to argue. There's no but! I was shouting again, unable to contain my fury. There's no excuse for this, none. Natalie finally spoke up, her voice small and defensive. I was going to end it. I was trying to find the right time to what? Come clean or leave me? Which was it? I demanded. She didn't answer, and she didn't have to. Her silence told me everything I needed to know. You know what kills me? I said, looking at all three of them standing there in our living room. It's not even the affair. I mean, that's fucked up, don't get me wrong. But it's the lying, the conspiracy. The three of you sitting around the dinner table with me, laughing, acting normal, all while knowing this huge secret. Do you have any idea how stupid that makes me feel? We didn't want to hurt you, Lily whispered, still crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Well, congratulations, you failed spectacularly at that, I snapped. The hurt in her eyes made me feel a twinge of guilt, but I was too angry to care. They had stolen my dignity along with my trust. So what now? Sophia asked, always practical, already thinking about next steps while I was still trying to process the bomb that had just gone off in my life. Now? Now I want all of you out of this house, I said quietly, my voice low but firm. I can't even look at any of you right now. Dad, please, Lily begged, reaching for me. Let's talk about this. I know I messed up. I just didn't know what to do. Get out! I shouted, making them all flinch. I'm serious! All of you get out! They left, with Natalie and Sophia practically dragging a hysterical Lily through the door. As it closed behind them, I collapsed on the couch, feeling like someone had ripped my heart out and stomped on it right in front of me. The house felt so empty, so quiet without them. I walked around aimlessly, looking at all our family photos on the walls and shelves. Decades of memories. Vacations, graduations, birthdays, holidays. All of them tainted now by betrayal. I was fuming, rage building inside me until I couldn't contain it anymore. I grabbed the nearest photo, us at Sophia's college graduation, all smiles and pride, and smashed it against the wall. The glass shattered, which felt satisfying for about 2 seconds. Then I just felt worse. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch staring at nothing, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. My phone kept buzzing with texts and calls from all three of them, but I ignored it. What was there to say? How could any explanation possibly make this better? The next few days were a blur. I took time off work, Told my boss it was a family emergency, which technically wasn't a lie. I barely left the couch, didn't really eat, didn't shower, just sat there replaying every moment of the last year, looking for signs I'd missed, wondering how I could have been so blind. Rob came by to check on me. He brought food I didn't eat and offered his company I didn't want. He suggested I go stay with him, said it wasn't good for me to be alone in the house with all the memories, but I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything but sit and stew in my anger and hurt. My phone kept blowing up with notifications. Natalie's messages evolved from apologetic. "I'm so sorry, please let me explain," to angry. "You're being childish. We need to talk like adults," to manipulative. "I'm worried about you. Please just let me know you're okay." I ignored them all. Natalie was nothing to me now. After everything I had given to this marriage, after 30 years of sacrifice, hard work, and loyalty, she threw it all away for some cheap affair. Fine. That was her choice. She could enjoy her boss. I didn't care anymore. But Sophia and Lily, that was the real knife to the gut. My own daughters, the kids I had raised, protected, and provided for all these years, they had been part of this betrayal from the beginning. They had known about the affair, and worse, they had actively helped her hide it. They had lied for her, covered for her, looked me in the eye across the dinner table, and acted like nothing was wrong. That betrayal was something I couldn't shake, something that hurt more deeply than I could express. Sophia sent one text that made my blood boil. "What you're doing is unfair to everyone. When you're ready to have a mature conversation about this, let me know." Entitled as always, acting like I was the one who had fucked up the family, I wanted to throw my phone against the wall. Lily was different. She called constantly, left tearful voicemails pleading for forgiveness. "Daddy, please talk to me. I know I messed up so bad. I was just trying to keep the family together. Mom said if I told you, you'd leave and everything would fall apart. I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me." Her messages were the hardest to ignore. She'd always been my little girl, the one who'd bring me dandelions and call them flowers, the one who'd fall asleep on my chest watching cartoons. But now, all I could see was her lying to my face, helping Natalie sneak around behind my back for over a year. After a week of this emotional purgatory, Rob finally convinced me to get my shit together. He was right. I couldn't just sit there feeling sorry for myself. I needed to take action. So I called a lawyer he recommended, a tough divorce attorney named Victor. "With the evidence you have, you're in a good position," Victor told me after I showed him the video and pictures. "But you need to be smart about this. Don't leave the house. That can be seen as abandonment. Don't empty the bank accounts, but do move half the money to a separate account she can't access. And document everything from now on." I followed his advice to the letter. I stayed in the house, moved half our money to a new account, changed the locks, and started documenting every interaction with Natalie and the girls. I was done being the fool in this story. Natalie showed up one day with Sophia, pounding on the door and demanding to be let in to get her things. I recorded the whole confrontation on my phone, standing calmly in the doorway while they called me every name in the book, their true colors finally showing. "You can get your stuff when my lawyer says you can," I told them with forced calm, which just enraged them further. "I'm getting married in 2 months!" Sophia shouted, her face red with anger. "Are you really going to ruin that because Mom made a mistake?" I nearly laughed at the absurdity of her characterization. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill," I replied evenly. "What your mother did was a choice. A series of choices made every day for 17 months. And what you did was just as bad." "I was protecting my family," she insisted, self-righteous indignation dripping from every word. "No, you were protecting your mother's affair. There's a difference," I said. They eventually left, but not before Sophia delivered one final entitled demand. "I'm still expecting you to pay for the wedding you promised." The audacity of this girl, who had betrayed me so thoroughly, but still expected me to fund her lavish wedding plans, was almost breathtaking. I just closed the door in her face, unable to even respond to such callousness. All I could do in the 2 weeks after discovering my wife's betrayal was try to keep it together. I went through the motions like a zombie. Wake up, go to work, come home, stare at walls, try to sleep, repeat. My life had become a hollow routine, devoid of the joy and purpose that had sustained me for decades. Rob and a couple other buddies kept checking on me, inviting me out for beers or to watch games, but I turned them down most of the time. I just didn't have the energy to be social or pretend I was okay when my entire world had collapsed around me. Lily kept trying to reach out, calling, texting, And she even showed up at my job site once, desperate to talk. After weeks of avoiding her, I finally agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but at least I was willing to listen to what she had to say. When I arrived at the cafe, I barely recognized her. She looked awful. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same hoodie she's had since high school. The vibrant, artistic daughter I knew had been replaced by this hollow-eyed stranger. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she said as soon as I sat down, her voice cracking with emotion. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I should have told you." "Why didn't you?" I asked, my voice quiet but intense. That's the question that keeps me up at night. She stared into her untouched coffee, shoulders hunched. Mom said she was going through a midlife crisis thing, that she just needed to get it out of her system. She told me that if you found out, you'd never forgive her, and it would destroy our family. "So instead, you destroyed my trust," I said flatly. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I know it was wrong, but you were always working, Dad," she said, a note of accusation creeping into her voice despite her apparent contrition. "Always at job sites, always stressed about money. Mom was lonely, and I'm not saying that makes it okay," she added quickly, seeing my expression darken. "What she did was wrong. But maybe if you'd been around more, talked to her more, noticed she was unhappy, and there it was." Even in her apology, she was still blaming me, still making excuses for Natalie's betrayal and her own complicity. Some part of me had hoped she'd truly understood the gravity of what they'd done, but it was clear she still thought I bore some responsibility for their choices. "I worked my ass off to give you and your sister everything," I said quietly, controlling my anger. "To put you both through college, to make sure we had a nice house, nice cars, vacations, everything you ever needed or wanted. If your mother was unhappy, she could have talked to me. She could have suggested counseling. She could have asked for a divorce. Instead, she cheated, and you helped her." "I know," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm just trying to explain, not excuse it." I wasn't sure I believed that, but looking at her, this broken version of my daughter, I couldn't just walk away coldly like I'd planned. She was still my child, even if I wasn't sure I'd ever trust her again. "I need time," I told her after a long silence. "I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I used to." "I understand," she said, wiping away tears. "Thank you for meeting me." As I watched her walk away, shoulders slumped in defeat, I was torn between wanting to call her back and comfort her, and wanting to cut her out of my life completely. It was an impossible position to be in, loving someone, but not being able to trust them anymore. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings were moving along and it was getting ugly. Natalie was fighting for half of everything, including my retirement account that I'd started before we even met. She wanted the house, alimony, the works. She claimed she had sacrificed her career for our family, even though she'd been working full-time since Lily started elementary school nearly 20 years ago. And get this, Sophia was still sending me wedding bills, venue deposits, florist payments, dress alterations, the absolute nerve. I didn't respond to any of it, but each new demand made me angrier and more determined to cut her out of my life permanently. One night, I got a text from Thomas, Sophia's fiancé, asking to meet for coffee. He wanted to understand what had really happened, saying that Sophia's version didn't quite add up. When we met, he admitted Sophia didn't know he was there. She'd be furious if she found out. According to him, she had told him that I was overreacting to a brief affair, that I had kicked them all out of the house, and refused to pay for the wedding out of spite. Thomas hadn't fully believed her story, noticing that Sophia had been acting secretive lately. I laid everything out for him. The video evidence, the 17-month affair, how both girls had covered for Natalie the entire time. By the end of our conversation, he looked physically ill. He had no idea it was this bad, that the woman he was planning to marry could participate in such elaborate deception. At that point, I was still trying to figure out what to do about Sophia and Lily. Cutting them off completely felt drastic, but after everything that had happened, could I ever trust them again? Rebuilding our relationship seemed impossible when I wasn't even sure if they truly regretted what they had done or just regretted getting caught. But one thing was absolutely certain. Natalie and I were finished. There was no coming back from that level of betrayal. The divorce papers had been filed, and now it was just a matter of fighting through the legal battle ahead. Work became my escape from the nightmare my personal life had become. I had to keep the money coming in, especially with the divorce set to drain me financially. My crew knew something was seriously wrong, but they didn't ask questions when I zoned out or needed a minute to collect myself. They just gave me space, which I appreciated more than they could know. The divorce turned ugly fast. Natalie's lawyer tried spinning the narrative, painting me as a neglectful workaholic who had pushed her into the affair through years of emotional absence. My lawyer, Victor, suggested settling to avoid dragging it out, but I refused on principle. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about standing up for myself after being betrayed and humiliated. Thomas called me again yesterday. Apparently, he had a big fight with Sophia after our talk. He'd started asking questions about the affair, and she completely flipped out, accusing him of taking my side and betraying her trust. The irony of her complaining about betrayal was staggering. "I'm having serious doubts about the wedding," he confided in me, his voice heavy with disappointment. "If she can lie about something this big, what else is she keeping from me?" Smart kid, I thought to myself. Out loud, I told him, "Cheaters protect cheaters. Someone who can justify lying to their father for over a year can justify lying to anyone." Speaking of Sophia, she sent me this long, condescending email last week, full of psychobabble about how I needed to process my feelings and work through my anger so we could heal as a family, as if we were all just going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya after what they did. She even had the audacity to include more wedding expense forms I needed to sign. The entitlement was breathtaking. Lily had been different after our coffee shop talk. She'd backed off a bit, sending only occasional texts. Nothing pushy, just checking in with messages like, "Hope you're doing okay," or "Thinking about you," or "Love you, Dad." I rarely responded, but I didn't block her either. Some part of me wasn't ready to completely let go of my younger daughter, despite everything. Rob has been an absolute rock through all of this mess. Last weekend, he convinced me to go fishing with him and some buddies, and it was the first time in weeks I went hours without thinking about the storm my life had become. Just being out on the water, focused on something simple and peaceful, gave me a momentary reprieve from the constant anger and pain. Then my lawyer called with some interesting news. Apparently, Natalie was trying to sell off some of our joint assets before the divorce was finalized. She had accidentally mentioned to a mutual friend that she and her boss Gregory were planning a big trip to Europe once all this unpleasantness was over. Unbelievable. The audacity of this woman never ceased to amaze me. Victor immediately got an emergency injunction to freeze everything. One small victory in a war I never wanted to fight. I still didn't know what to do about Sophia and Lily. I loved them. They were my daughters, after all. But every time I started to soften toward them, I remembered the lies, the fake girls' nights, the way they covered for Natalie, warning her when I asked questions. They didn't just know about the affair, they actively helped her maintain it for 17 months. They chose her affair over my right to the truth, over my dignity as a husband and father. Sophia's wedding was rapidly approaching, and somehow she still expected me to walk her down the aisle as if nothing had happened. She even sent a guilt-tripping text about how my issues with Natalie shouldn't affect her special day. Like that was what mattered, not the family she helped destroy with her lies and complicity. I didn't respond. Anything I'd say would end with me telling her exactly where to go. And despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to be that cruel. I thought about just leaving, selling the house, moving somewhere new, starting fresh in a place where nobody knew me or my story. But that felt like letting them win. Like I was the one who had done something wrong and needed to slink away in shame. Why should I be the one to abandon the life I'd built? And just when I thought this shit show couldn't possibly get any worse, life decided to throw another curveball my way. I was meeting with my lawyer about the divorce when he mentioned checking social media for anything that might help our case. "I'm not on that stuff," I told him, having always avoided social media platforms. "Well, Natalie is," he said, turning his laptop toward me. "And you might want to see this." It was Natalie's Facebook page. There was a post from just a few days ago. A photo of her, Gregory, and Sophia at some fancy restaurant, all smiles and champagne glasses. The caption read, "So blessed to be surrounded by love as we blend our families. Gregory has officially proposed. Wedding planning for us after we help Sophia with hers. Engaged." They were already engaged. The divorce wasn't even finalized yet, and they weren't even trying to hide their relationship anymore. And Sophia was right there with them, celebrating the relationship that had destroyed our family, beaming with apparent joy at her mother's engagement to the man she'd cheated on me with. In the comments, Sophia had written, "So happy for you guys. Can't wait to have 2 weddings to celebrate." As if this were some kind of heartwarming story about finding true love, not a sordid tale of betrayal and family destruction. I felt so incredibly stupid. Here I was still reeling from the discovery of the affair, still waking up every morning with that sick feeling in my stomach, and they were already playing happy families, planning a wedding while the ashes of my marriage were still warm. There was more. Another post showed Gregory helping Sophia with wedding preparations, apparently paying for the stuff I refused to cover, playing the hero. And in one photo caption, Sophia was calling him her bonus dad. Bonus dad. What the actual fuck? The man who had helped destroy her parents' marriage was now being embraced as some kind of additional father figure? It was surreal and nauseating. That was it. The final straw. In that moment, something inside me just snapped. All the hurt, all the betrayal, all the months of second-guessing myself crystallized into a cold, clear certainty about what I needed to do. I want to change my will, I told the lawyer, my voice steady and resolved. I want Natalie to get nothing beyond what the law requires, and I want both Sophia and Lily removed as beneficiaries. Victor looked surprised by my sudden decision. Are you sure? That's a big step. I'm sure, I said without hesitation. They made their choices, now I'm making mine. When I got home that night, I received a call from Thomas. He was done. He had broken things off with Sophia after finding texts between her and Natalie, planning how to manipulate me into paying for the wedding. They had this whole strategy mapped out. How Sophia would guilt-trip me, how they'd use mutual friends to pressure me into opening my wallet. The works. You were right about her, Thomas said, his voice heavy with disappointment. I'm sorry, sir. I thought you should know. I thanked him, actually feeling bad for the kid. He had dodged a bullet by discovering Sophia's true character before the wedding, but it still had to hurt having his relationship implode just months before they were supposed to get married. Later that evening, I got a call from Lily. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Apparently, she'd had a huge fight with Natalie and Sophia after finding out about the engagement and the social media posts. They didn't even tell me, she sobbed into the phone. I found out from Facebook like everyone else. And when I asked Mom how she could get engaged when you two aren't even divorced yet, she said I needed to grow up and get with the program. Sophia took her side, of course, said I was being childish and dramatic. Part of me felt a flicker of hope that maybe Lily was finally seeing the truth about her mother and sister. But then she continued. I just don't understand why you can't all try to work this out, she said, her voice plaintive. Why does everyone have to be so extreme? Mom made a mistake, but I cut her off, unable to listen to more excuses. 17 months isn't a mistake, Lily. And neither is lying to my face every day for months. Those are choices. Choices all of you made. I know, she said quickly, backpedaling. I know that. I'm not defending what she did or what I did. I miss how things used to be. Things were never how they used to be, I replied bitterly. It was all a lie and I'm done. What do you mean done? She asked, sounding suddenly scared. I mean, I'm moving on with my life without any of you, I told her, my voice firm with resolve. She started crying harder. Dad, please, I know I fucked up, I know that, but I'm trying here, I'm really trying. It's too late, I said flatly. I've already changed my will. You and Sophia are out of it. There was dead silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a small, disbelieving voice, she asked, You what? You heard me. I met with my lawyer today. Everything goes to my brother now. But Dad, that's not, you can't just... I can and I did, I interrupted. You all made your choices. Now I've made mine. She hung up without another word. I expected to feel guilty about my harshness, but instead I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut loose an anchor that had been dragging me down for months. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. The next day, all hell broke loose. Sophia sent a barrage of angry texts, calling me petty, vindictive, and cruel for changing my will. Natalie had her lawyer contact Victor about my retaliatory actions, claiming I was acting out of spite rather than making rational decisions. Even some mutual friends reached out, saying I was being too harsh and that I should think about reconciliation for the sake of the family. As if there was still a family to save. Through all of that drama and emotional blackmail, I experienced something I hadn't felt in months. I slept through the night. No dreams about the way things used to be. No waking up with that sick feeling in my stomach. Just peaceful, dreamless sleep. That night, I realized something profound. The family I thought I had never actually existed. It was a mirage, a comforting illusion I'd believed in for decades. And maybe that was okay. Maybe it was better to live in truth, even a painful truth, than in a comfortable lie. It's been 5 months since everything went down, and I figured I'd give you an update on where things stand now. The divorce is finally official. Natalie didn't get nearly what she wanted, thanks to Victor's badass lawyering and all the evidence I had documented. She got some cash and her car, but not the house or my retirement savings. She and Gregory got married just 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized. Real classy move, showing everyone exactly how little our 30 years together had meant to her. I sold the house. Too many memories, both good and bad. I bought a smaller place closer to work in a different neighborhood. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. No ghosts, no lies, no painful reminders of the life I thought I had. After I changed my will and told Lily about it, she showed up at my door the next day, crying and begging me to reconsider. She said she'd do anything to make things right between us. I told her I appreciated her efforts, but my decision was final. When she realized I wasn't budging, something changed in her demeanor. She got quiet, then cold. "So that's it?" she asked, her voice hard with disbelief. 30 years as a family and you're just throwing it all away? I didn't throw anything away, I reminded her firmly. You all did that when you decided to lie to me for over a year. She left without another word, and I haven't heard from her since. Apparently she's moved in with Natalie and Gregory now. One big happy family, I guess. Sophia got married last month to some dentist she met right after Thomas left her. They didn't invite me, and I didn't expect them to. I heard from mutual friends that Gregory walked her down the aisle. That stung for about a minute. Then I realized I didn't actually care anymore. The man who had slept with my wife behind my back for over a year was now playing father to my daughter. In a twisted way, they deserved each other. The thing about cutting toxic people out of your life is that it hurts like hell at first. But then, gradually, you start to notice how much lighter you feel, how much more energy you have, how much clearer your head is without their drama and manipulation clouding your thoughts. I've been seeing someone for a couple of months now. I'll call her Claire. We met at a friend's barbecue. She's divorced too and understands the baggage that comes with that kind of emotional trauma. We're taking it slow, but it's good. Really good. She knows my whole story and doesn't judge me for cutting off my daughters. She gets it in a way most people don't. Her ex cheated on her with her sister, so she knows all about family betrayal firsthand. Do I miss Sophia and Lily sometimes? Usually when I see a father with his adult daughters out to dinner, or when I hear a song they used to like, or on their birthdays. But it's more like missing the idea of them. The daughters I thought I had. The real ones. The ones who lied to my face for months? Nah, I don't miss them at all. A few weeks ago, I ran into Thomas at a sports bar. He's doing well, dating someone new and moving on with his life. He told me Sophia had reached out to him recently, saying she'd made a huge mistake and wanted another chance. He turned her down flat. "You taught me something important," he said, raising his beer in a small toast. "About self-respect. About not letting people treat you like you don't matter." That meant a lot to me, hearing that at least something good came out of this whole mess. Last week, I finalized my new will with my lawyer. Most of my assets will now go to my brother and his kids, who've been my rock through all of this. I also set up a small scholarship fund at the local community college for students in the drafting program. I figured I might as well help some kids who will actually appreciate the opportunity and not take it for granted. Claire and I are talking about moving in together next year. We're taking it slow, but the direction feels right. She makes me laugh, calls me on my bullshit, and doesn't have a single relative who stabbed me in the back. Major upgrade from my previous situation. Sometimes people ask if I regret my decision to cut Sophia and Lily off completely. They say things like, "But they're your daughters," or "Family is forever," or some other Hallmark card platitude. My answer is always the same. Family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, and loyalty. Things my daughters showed me they don't have. Maybe someday one of them will genuinely realize what they did and apologize without excuses or blame shifting. Maybe pigs will fly too. I'm not holding my breath for either. What I've learned through all this is that you can't control what others do, only how you respond to it. Natalie chose to cheat. Sophia and Lily chose to enable and cover for her. And I chose to walk away from all of them. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, but also the only one that preserved my dignity and sanity. The hardest part wasn't the affair itself, as devastating as that was. It was realizing that my daughters, the people I would have done absolutely anything for, could betray me like that, could lie to my face day after day, could help break my heart into 1,000 pieces and then blame me for not being happy about it. But here's the thing. Once you accept that the people you loved aren't who you thought they were, you can start to build a life that's real, not based on lies or false obligations, but on genuine connections with people who actually give a damn about you. So yeah, I'm doing better than I ever expected to be at this point. This isn't the life I planned to have at my age, but it's a good one. An honest one. And that's worth more than any family that's built on lies.